Is there a God? Maybe one of the most difficult questions to ask yourself when you change your religious convictions. Religion and the belief in supernatural stuff is very old. Most humans, even today, are brought up in a belief system, in a belief in some kind of supernaturalism. Christian, Muslim, Hindu, and what have you. But why do we believe in invisible deities? Or to be more precise with that question, why did I believe? The most compelling arguments pro-God, for me personally, always were the first cause argument on the one hand, and that one can see God in nature, according to Romans 1:20, on the other hand. Let's start with a first cause argument, and I'm sure you will recognize what I'm going to tell you is not very well ordered, and maybe it doesn't even make sense, but I think it reflects what I believed not too long ago. I thought that the universe is in such a beautiful order, the Earth in such a perfect spot in that universe, circling around the sun in just the right distance and in an angle that gives us the seasons. This cannot be an accident or just chance. It's impossible. We all know every house has a creator. And they want to tell me that the universe came into existence in an unguided process? Like an accident? And life? Never has it been observed that something inanimate came to life. So why doesn't it happen again, if it is possible at all? And if life would be here due to evolution? And just a little side note. At that time, I have been totally unaware of the difference between evolution and abiogenesis. So, if life would be here due to evolution, why don't we see intermediate life forms today anymore? What they tell us is all nonsense. There has to be someone watching over all this. Someone has to give guidance to the universe. So, in accordance to the cause and effect, there has to be a first cause. And of course, this is God, as the Bible tells us. This must be Jehovah. And the Bible also says that God had no beginning, and therefore he does not require a cause himself. Problem solved, brain can be shut down again. But what I just said, does it make sense? Does it make sense to you? Well, I think let's work our way backwards through what I just said. Cause and effect. Why do I stop thinking about the cause and effect problem? Because an ancient book tells me there is no problem. Just by assuming that there is an omnipotent, omniscient being that created the universe, you are generating an even bigger effect. Namely, this specific supernatural being requiring an even more powerful cause. So, who created God? He was always there, you may say? Where exactly has he been? And how can he have always been there? It must have been outside the universe. So is there kind of a parallel world? Something outside the universe? Remember, we are not talking about our tiny little galaxy called the Milky Way, where our planet Earth is, but about the thing hosting the billions and billions of galaxies, each consisting of hundreds of millions, if not billions of stars. And galaxies themselves take up the minority of space in our observable universe. Let us put that into perspective. Our Milky Way galaxy, where planet Earth is located, has a diameter of about 100,000 to 180,000 light years. That means it takes light 100 to 180,000 years to travel across. Think about that. It took the Mars rover Curiosity over 8 months to get from Earth to Mars. Do you have an idea how long it takes light to travel from Earth to Mars? About 2 minutes and 47 seconds. It took a rocket-propelled spaceship 8 months to travel the distance of 2 minutes and 47 seconds in light speed. Can you imagine what 100,000 light years, so the travel time for light of 100,000 years means in distance? I think we are talking about dimensions too big, far too big to be imagined, at least for me. But now you may say, isn't God great that He did all that? He created all that to make us awe and praise Him? Well, if so, then who made God being capable of doing such things? And is that any more probable than a universe that came into existence by an incredibly dense region of matter that might have existed forever, who knows, and just started expanding, and thereby created what we understand as time and space? That's what we call the Big Bang. No. I don't want to go into detail here. Get yourself a copy of A Brief History of Time from Stephen Hawking and learn about the Big Bang Theory before you deny it. Do I now say that I believe in the Big Bang Theory with absolute certainty? Certainly not. But don't do it as I did. Don't judge for yourself based on a, in best case, childish watchtower level of understanding. I would say it's more of a misconception about the Big Bang Theory. Don't do the same mistakes I did. Maybe you already did them. Most probably you already did them when you're watching this video. But this is your unique opportunity to change that. You may now ask, but how can it be that life and the beauty on earth are so incredible that everything seems just so right, as if it were made specifically for us? If it all sprang into existence by chance? There are two ways I spontaneously can think of how to tackle this. First, think about how friendly planet Earth and the universe truly is to us. Isn't the biggest part of our planet Earth covered with water where we cannot live? And we're not talking about drinking water, we're talking about salt water. We cannot even drink. And that makes shipwrecked people to easily die of thirst, sitting on a huge amount of water. And how many other planets that would be habitable for us have we found in our solar system? How many have we found in our galaxy so far? How long can we survive out in space without replenishing our stock from planet Earth? How long could we survive out there without any technological support to protect us from cold, radiation, and to supply us with air to breathe? Think about it. Is that universe really so friendly to us? The universe that we know and that we observe? The second reason, or the second idea to tackle this. Couldn't it be the case that the planet we live on and that allows us to observe the universe and the world around us, that seems so well placed in the observable universe, is just observable to us for the very reason that it allowed us to come into existence? If you want to dig deeper into that, why don't you research the anthropic principle and learn a bit more about this? It's really interesting. Doesn't it seem incredibly unlikely that in the billions of galaxies with millions and billions of planets, in every single one of these galaxies, that at least on a single planet, life must have started? Just for statistical reasons. Now you may say, okay, but why can't we see life forms come into existence again? If this can happen on its own. Well, think about for how long humanity is capable of observing nature in a scientific way. How long do we know how to do that? And think about how improbable the process of abiogenesis most probably is. And maybe nowadays, the very basic life that might come into existence just by naturalistic processes would be immediately eaten up by more sophisticated life forms that are better adapted and already conquered the habitat. We do not even know how abiogenesis works in the first place. And this has nothing to do with evolution just being a theory. It doesn't have anything to do with evolution. It's all about abiogenesis, which is a different field of research and a pretty young one. And if you now want to jump up and you're getting nervous on your chair and you want to shout in my face, aha, so you don't know how it happened. Well, calm down. Isn't it far more honest and humble to say that you don't know instead of just saying you don't know or understand, therefore God must have done it? Can you provide me with a single line of evidence, with a single proof for God's deeds in creation? And I'm not talking about quoting Bible verses. I'm talking about evidence. In earlier days, I might well have quoted Romans 1:20 at that point of the discussion, even though most of the arguments would have just bounced off of my Jehovas Witness force shield of ignorance. But what does Romans 1 verse 20 indicate? Let's read it together, okay? I'm quoting the New World Translation. Romans 1:20. For his invisible qualities are clearly seen from the world's creation onward, because they are perceived by the things made, even his eternal power and godship, so that they are inexcusable. God's traits or qualities can be observed through the things made by him, so through creation. This boils down to the cause and effect argument again. And in this specific case, I would like to quote a passage from David Hume's An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding again. When we infer any particular cause from an effect, we must proportion the one to the other, and can never be allowed to ascribe to the cause any qualities, but what are exactly sufficient to produce the effect. A body of 10 ounces raised in any scale may serve as a proof that the counterbalancing weight exceeds 10 ounces, but can never afford a reason that it exceeds 100. If the cause assigned for any effect be not sufficient to produce it, we must either reject that cause or add to it such qualities as will give it a just proportion to the effect. But if we ascribe to it further qualities or affirm it capable of producing other effects, we can only indulge the license of conjecture and arbitrarily suppose the existence of qualities and energies without reason or authority. So, even if I would ignore all I said before and would say that what we observe on earth points towards a creator, what kind of creator are we allowed to assume? Honestly, it seems to be a rather nasty guy to me. In The Greatest Show on Earth, Richard Dawkins outlines the example of a cheetah hunting an antelope and how cruel that process is. Either the cheetah fails and starves, maybe even starves to death if he fails too often, or he's successful and kills the antelope in a pretty unpleasant way. I mean, there are beautiful documentations out there. Watch them. Does that look like a loving God, making either the cheetah or the antelope suffer? Whatever the outcome is, one is going to suffer. Or look at us humans. We suffer all the time. But yes, we are imperfect. Satan did all that. Where's the proof for that? And there's one big problem. Viruses, these little machines, just reproduce in their hosts in a fashion that is pretty unpleasant to the host. I mean, have you ever had a flu? Is the flu a sign of a loving God? But all this is far too complex to come to life without a creator. And evolution by chance is not an explication. Well, that's material for another video. Here, I'm just going to state that the theory of evolution that the world is talking about has nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with what the nice Watchtower articles make you believe it is. And a theory in science is the most elaborate status something can get. Or would you also say that gravitation is just a theory? Or electromagnetics? But putting all that aside again, if those things were to prove a God, which they are not, but let's assume, how does that make you decide if it's Jehovah, Allah, or any other particular God? How does it prove that the Bible is true, that this all has been done by the God of the Bible? Once again, please listen to what David Hume said. You find certain phenomena in nature. You seek a cause or author. You imagine that you have found him. You afterwards become so enamored of this offspring of your brain that you imagine it impossible. But he must produce something greater and more perfect than the present scene of things, which is so full of ill and disorder. You forget that this superlative intelligence and benevolence are entirely imaginary, or at least without any foundation in reason, and that you have no ground to ascribe to him any qualities, but what you see he has actually exerted and displayed in his productions. Let your God, therefore, O philosophers, be suited to the present appearances of nature, and presume not to alter these appearances by arbitrary suppositions, in order to suit them to the attributes which you so fondly ascribe to your deities. Cause and effect. Think twice. My belief, my personal belief in a God and Creator is shaken to the very foundations. Am I an atheist now? Honestly, I don't know. Right now, I do neither want to be called an atheist, nor agnostic, nor deist or theist. All I can say is that I'm a skeptic. But what do you think? What are your reasons to believe in a creator or God? Or the very opposite? Why don't you believe in a God? What is your evidence for God or against it? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section or maybe in an answer video. I would really appreciate if you like this video, if you subscribe to my channel, and please comment. I cannot put enough emphasis on this. Let's discuss. Thank you for your attention, and till next time.